Okay, let's set this up. Strings activity main, and there we go. Good evening. Well, it's evening for me. This is the Meal Ideas app presentation for assignment 1 of Introduction to Mobile Applications and Development. My name is Aiden, student number ST104-70773, group 2. Okay, so today we're going to discuss the Meal Ideas app, an Android app that helps you decide what to eat. How the app works, technically speaking, the app has one main screen, and this is our main activity that handles everything. When you open it, you see buttons and a text area. The app uses a system called view binding to connect these visual elements to the code, making it easier to work with. Now let's first discuss with choosing your meal. So first, when you tap select meal time, a pop-up menu appears. This menu is like a list that's defined separately in a file, and that file would be my drop-down menu XMLs, and that can be seen here. So each of these within this list is a clickable button on its own, but it is in fact a list. So this is a drop down menu, and each of the items have an ID which we can use to interact with within our main Kotlin file. Then the code shows the menu and then waits for you to pick an option. So when you do click select a meal time, the drop down menu will appear, and this menu will wait for you to select one. And the menu is like a list that is defined separately in a file. So the code shows a menu and then waits for you to pick an option. When you do, it figures out which meal type you chose, like dinner, and remembers that choice. It also displays a quick message like dinner selected to let you know it understood your choice, which I implemented using a toast under my main Kotlin. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So this here specifically only defines whether you did or did not select a meal type. No, this is an else statement. So if you don't select a meal type, that will pop up first. Okay, then getting a meal selection. After selecting a meal type, you hit generate meal, which is here. This triggers the app to switch to a new screen. We know there's another screen involved even though we don't see its code. And that other screen will be your meal display activity, where there's a text view on top which just displays your meal type, whether it be breakfast, breakfast snack, lunch snack, and dinner snack. Now, getting a meal suggestion. After selecting a meal type, you hit blah blah blah. Understanding view binding, and it's in. Ooh, this is gonna be another one to explain. Okay, understanding view binding and it's in. Understanding view binding and intents in the Meal Ideas app. Let's dive deeper into the two crucial concepts used in the Meal Ideas app: view binding and intents. These are fundamental building blocks in Android development that help us create interactive and multi-screen applications. View binding, connecting code to use interface. Imagine you're building a house. You need to connect the electrical wiring, your code, to the light switches, outlets, and appliances. In Android, view binding is like a smart electrician that automatically creates those functions for you. What is view binding? View binding is a feature that simplifies your code, interacts with the visual elements, buttons, text fields, images, etc., that you've designed in your app's layout files, which is your XML file. Instead of manually searching for each element by its ID, view binding generates a special class that holds direct references to all elements in your layout. How does it work in the Meal Ideas app? Enabling view binding. To use view binding, we first need to enable it in the app's build Gradle file. This tells Android Studio to generate the necessary code, and under our Gradle file, we can see that we did turn build features view binding to true, which allows us to do that. And then okay, and then binding class generation. When we build the app, view binding automatically creates a binding class for each layout file. For our main screen activity main XML, it creates a class called activity main binding, which can be seen right here. Now this had to be imported for it to work for some various reasons, but tried my best to limit as much errors as possible. So accessing UI elements. In our main activity code, we create an instance of activity main binding. This object then gives us direct access to all the UI elements defined in activity underscore main.xml. For example, if we have a button with the ID drop down button in our layout, we can access it in the code using main binding drop down button benefits, and then the benefits of view binding. Type safety. View binding ensures that you are working with the correct type of UI element. If you try to treat a button as a text field, you'll get a compile time error, preventing runtime crashes. Next would be null safety. The references provided by view binding are generated to be non-null, eliminating the risk of non-null pointer exceptions caused by accidentally using an element that hasn't been initialized. Code simplicity. View binding makes your code cleaner and easier to read by removing the need for verbose find view by ID calls. And next would be the intents, which can be seen around here under the if then statement for the generate meal button, especially this code here directly. Oh no, this completely full. Yeah, this. Oh my god. I was about to have a heart attack. Okay, so intents. Navigating between screens and passing information. Think of an intent as a message that tells the Android operating system what action you want to perform. One of the most common uses of intents is to navigate between different screens, activities within your app. This can also carry the data, allowing you to share information between these screens. What is an intent? An intent is a fundamental mechanism in Android Studio for performing actions. It's like a request or a command that you send to the system. Intents can be used for various purposes, including starting an activity, starting a service, and broadcasting a message to other apps. Performing an action with data, examples, opening a web page, sending an email. So, how do intents work in the Meal Ideas app? In the Meal Ideas app, we use intent to move from the main screen, which is main activity, to the screen that displays the meal suggestion, which we call meal display activity. Then, creating an intent. When the user taps the generate meal button, we create an intent object. We specify the destination, activity meal display, as part of this intent. Adding extra information. Since we need to tell the meal display activity which meal type user selected, example dinner, we attach the information using the put extra method. We provide a key, which would be meal type in this scenario, and the values, the selected meal type, to store its data within the intent. Starting the new activity. When we use the start activity intent method, which we think we'd see here, set content view, da 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 da. I believe I put it here somewhere, or unless it's still in my main Kotlin. I'll try and remember. The system finds the meal display activity and starts passing it along the intent. Receiving information in the new activity. In the meal display activity, there would be code that receives the intent. It uses the get extra method along with the key meal type to retrieve the selected meal type that we attached. This allows meal display activity to display the correct meal suggestion. And in summary, I know it's not necessary, but I used a map of function to store the outputs of each meal option. So breakfast would have bacon and eggs with coffee, morning snack would have yogurt, and lunch would have sandwich and a salad. I believe that's all there is to discuss for this app, unless I still need to discuss the back button, which takes us back to our main screen after we press it. The options, which does display this information here. So if you do select breakfast here under our drop down menu, bacon and eggs with coffee will be displayed here, and then breakfast itself would be displayed under meal type. When we press the back button, it takes us back to our main screen, and our main screen would be our activity main. And under here, so for my generate meal button, when you do select a meal time, so if you click breakfast, selected meal, this none will change to whatever meal time that you selected. So if you select breakfast, this will change to breakfast, and the clear button clears that function, that selected meal type back to none, so that if a user did make a mistake, they can always rectify that at any given time. I believe that's all for my presentation, and thank you.